نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي ربنا زدنا علما اللهم فقهنا في الدين آمين. Now in Surah Al-A'raf in Juz number 8 when we started it we ended the Juz in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had mentioned some prominent messengers and their communication with their nations and the punishments that those nations incurred upon them. Nuh alayhi salam is mentioned, Hud alayhi salam is mentioned, Salih alayhi salam is mentioned, and then Shu'aib alayhi salam was mentioned. And the Juz number 8 ended in the mid-conversation of Shu'aib alayhi salam with his people. And this is where it's continuing now. قال الملأ الذين استكبروا من قومه لنخرجنك يا شعيب. So when Shu'aib alayhi salam invited them to the Tawheed, to the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to stop mixing, to give people the proper weight and measure because they were, in their business dealings, they were corrupt. So their response was very similar to the response of other eminent people of the other prophets' nations. So said the eminent ones who were arrogant among his people, we will surely evict you. I mean, we're going to take you out. We don't want to listen to you, Shu'aib, so stay away. لَنُخْرِجَنَّكَ يَا Shu'aib. We're going to kick you out. وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مَعَاكَ. O Shu'aib, and those who have believed with you from your city, meaning not just you, but the ones who are following you. Okay? Or you must return to our religion. أَوْ لَتُعُودُنَّ فِي مِلَّتِنَا. First of all, stop what you're doing. If you don't stop, we'll kick you out and kick your followers out. And if you don't want to be kicked out, you want to stay here in peace, then return back to our deen, meaning return back to our old ways. قَالَ أَوَلَوْ كُنَّ كَارِهِينَ. He said, even if we were unwilling. So Shu'aib alayhi salam replied that even if we're unwilling, you're going to force us. We would have invented against Allah a lie. I mean, if I were to return back to my old religion, then what's going to happen? It's as if I was inventing a lie against Allah this whole time. It would look like as if I was just making up all of this about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We would have invented against Allah a lie if we returned to your religion after Allah had saved us from it. And it is not for us to return to it except that Allah, our Lord, should will. Our Lord has encompassed all things in knowledge. رَبُّنَا كُلَّ شَيْءٍ عِلْمًا. عَلَى اللَّهِ تَوَكَّلْنَا. And upon Allah we rely. We have tawakkul on Allah. And then he makes dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. رَبَّنَا, our Rabb, افتح بيننا وبين قومنا. Decide between us and our people in truth. بالحق وأنت خير الفاتحين. And you are the best of those who give decisions or who give victory or who give power. وقال الملأ الذين كفروا. Said the eminent ones who disbelieved amongst his people. Meaning amongst his nation, not everybody was a disbeliever. There were quite a few that were following Shu'aib alayhi salam. So the ones who were disbelieving in him, they said to him, if you should follow Shu'aib, indeed you would then be losers. So first they threatened Shu'aib alayhi salam, and now they're threatening his followers directly that if you continue to follow Shu'aib, okay, we're going to make your life hell. We're going to make your life so miserable. You're going to pay the price for this. And just like in today's time, if somebody tells you, if you become more religious, people are going to not like you. And we do that. A lot of times when our children are becoming more religious or any family member is becoming more religious, what do? We put them, we introduce them the fear of other people, that how your life will become very difficult. We tell them you're not going to get a good job. We tell them nobody is going to marry you if you put on a hijab. We tell them that if you put on a beard, everybody's going to consider you a mullah and then they're not going to associate with you. We shouldn't be that religious. We shouldn't be this much. Let's go back to old ways, the way our family was running. You know, when we read these stories, we need to find ourselves in these stories. These are not just stories. These stories are there for us to see where do we stand. And a lot of us say what the disbelievers said to Shu'aib alayhi salam and his followers, that we are going to make your life difficult, or your life will become difficult if you continue to follow the path of the deen. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala punished them because of them not just disbelieving, but also threatening the believers and threatening to kick them out. What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say we did? فَأَخَذَتْهُمُ الرَّجْفَةُ فَأَصْبَحُوا فِي دَارِهِمْ جَاثِمِينَ. So the earthquake seized them, and they became within their homes corpses fallen prone. The people of Madian, the people of Shu'aib alayhi salam, the punishment that came upon them came in 3 stages. The first stage was that a big cloud overtook the sky, and in this big cloud they could see fire, and the fire would shoot out, right? They could see it. And then from that big cloud, a big sound came that threatened everyone, and everyone's heart was like, oh my God, what is this sound? And then the third stage of their punishment was that it turned into an earthquake, a big earthquake came, right? And then they all died because of that. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rescued Shu'aib alayhi salam and his followers, because he commanded Shu'aib alayhi salam and his followers to leave that place because the punishment of Allah was about to come. And why was this punishment came to them? الَّذِينَ كَذَّبُوا شُعَيْبًا. Those who denied Shu'aib, it was as though they had never resided there, meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala turned their city in such a way as if nobody ever lived there. The hustle and bustle that existed before, the noise of the city, the glamour of the city, the lights of the city, everything is gone. Those who denied Shu'aib, it was they who were the losers, meaning they were threatening the followers of Shu'aib alayhi salam. They were threatening them that you're going to be amongst the losers, but they themselves became the losers in this dunya and akhirah as well. And he turned away from them and said, and while Shu'aib alayhi salam was leaving his city, because he knew the azab of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is about to come, he said to them, he turned away from them and said, "O my people, I had certainly conveyed to you the messages of my Lord and advised you. وَنَصَحْتُ لَكُمْ فَكَيْفَ أَسَىٰ عَلَىٰ قَوْمٍ كَافِرِينَ." So how could I grieve for disbelieving people? Meaning I'm not going to grieve for you. You know, it's bound to be that it hurts when somebody close to us, somebody we love, is far away from the deen, right? Especially when we enter the deen and we learn things about it that we did not know, then our natural desire becomes that I want my relatives to know, I want my family to know, I want my children to know. Just like, let's say if you're not even close to the deen, you are a very successful person, you are a very studious person, and your children are not very studious. Your children are not hardworking. It hurts you. It hurts you. And the messengers are like a father figure for any city, for any nation, because they feel this obligation to prompt up obligation to bring us up in a way so that we use our full potential in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it obviously hurts them intensely when the nation is not following. So he's leaving his people and he's feeling in his heart that, oh, I wish that they had accepted and they would not be in this state. He tried his best until you get to a point where you're like, you know what? Do whatever you want to do. I'm not going to grieve for you. You know, we have these stages as a human where we are extremely concerned, but when somebody keeps throwing away our concern and is held bent on destroying their life, what do we say then? Fine, it's your life, destroy it as much as you want. I tried my best. So this is the kind of sentiment that is being delivered in this ayah, that how could I grieve for disbelieving people? وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَا فِي قَرْيَةٍ مِّن نَبِيٍّ إِلَّا أَخَذْنَا أَهْلَهَا بِالْبَأْسَاءِ. And we sent to no city a prophet who was denied, except that we seized its people with poverty and hardship, that they might humble themselves to Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that every city who deny their prophets, They had to pay a price for it. Some kind of punishment came upon them, and they were all inflicted with poverty and hardship so that they would humble themselves. ثم بدلنا مكان السيئة الحسنة. Then we exchange in place of the bad condition good. Meaning, after a while, after the difficulties, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always changes the course. After difficulty, hasana, good things come. حتى عفوا until they increased in abundance. وقالوا قد مس آباءنا الضراء والسراء فأخذناهم بغتة وهم لا يشعرون. And they said, our fathers also were touched with hardship and ease, so we seized them suddenly while they did not perceive. Meaning when difficulty would come to them as a result, and when ease would come, they would associate with this, oh, these things happened to our forefathers too. But when they would be completely engrossed in riches of the world, that is when the punishment of Allah would come upon them. And if only the people of the cities had believed and feared Allah, we would have opened upon them blessings from the heavens. بركات من السماء والأرض ولكن كذبوا فأخذناهم بما كانوا يكسبون. If only they would have believed, what would have happened? لفتحنا, surely we would have opened عليهم, upon them, barakat, blessings, من السماء, from the heavens, والأرض, and from the earth. From this we learned that when we follow the commandments of Allah, barakah enters our life. If barakah is missing from our lives, if you feel this emptiness in your life, then we are involved in a sin that is consuming that barakah. And from a hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we learn that he says that when you follow one commandment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, just one, the amount of barakah that enters in your life, the amount of rahmah and barakah that enters in your life is so much, the advantage of it is so much that as if a city that gets rain for 40 days consecutively, and because of that rain, the city becomes lush. And when it rains, the nice kind of rain, the subtle rain, the weather gets clean, the air is beautiful, right? The smell in the air is refreshing. You feel the presence of the rain. When it hasn't rained and when it does rain, there's a clear difference, right? So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is communicating this to us, that just following one command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings so much barakah in your life, so much mercy comes in your life, as if there was a city and it was raining there for 40 days consecutively. Subhanallah al-Azim. Then did the people of the cities feel secure from our punishment coming to them at night while they were asleep? Or did the people of the cities feel secure from our punishment coming to them in the morning while they were at play? It's like as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is taunting them. What time of the day do you feel secure about the punishment? Allah's punishment can come at night or during the day. So how are you feeling so peaceful and at ease and feeling that nothing is going to happen? Then did they feel secure from the plan of Allah? أَفَأَمِنُوا مَكْرَ اللَّهِ? Are they so secure that nothing's going to happen? Don't they know that Allah is also planning against them? But no one feels secure from the plan of Allah except for the losing people. Has it not become clear to those who inherited the earth after its previous people that if we willed, we would afflict them for their sins? But we seal over their hearts so they do not hear. When do the hearts get sealed? وَنَطْبَعُ عَلَى قُلُوبِهِمْ فَهُمْ لَا يَسْمَعُونَ. When do the hearts get sealed? When the truth comes to you and you deny out of your own ego or your own superiority. That's when the sealing of the hearts happen. Those cities we relate to you, Muhammad, some of their news, and certainly did their messengers come to them with clear proofs, but they were not to believe in that which they had denied before. Meaning because they denied it, so they're like, now we're not going to believe it. You know how some people say, oh, I said no. Even when they see the truth, they're like, I already said no. It happens to us as parents sometime. I was relating it, that sometimes I would say no to my kids, right? And then they will convince me. And in my heart, I will know that, yeah, you know what they're saying is right. I should give in. But just because I said no, I'm not going to budge. So now take this attitude and apply it to the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that you know that what you're doing is wrong, but just to make you feel that, no, I'm not doing anything wrong, you keep denying it and keep defending your wrong action because you don't want to publicly admit or accept the fact that you could be doing something wrong. Right? This is what causes the sealing of the hearts. And we did not find for most of them any covenant, but indeed we found most of them defiantly disobedient. Then we sent after them Musa alayhi salam, with our signs to Fir'aun and his establishment, but they were unjust towards them. So see how was the end of the corruptors. Now from here begins the story of Musa alayhi salam in a little bit more detail. وَقَالَ مُوسَى, and when Musa said to Fir'aun, Ya Fir'aun, inni rasulun min rabbil alameen, I am a messenger from the Lord of the worlds. Now let's do a little bit of background here. Who was Fir'aun? Fir'aun was a title given to every king of Egypt. Okay? Fir'aun was not his actual name. Anyone who would become the king or in the succession would be called the pharaoh of that time, and he would be named Fir'aun. And their belief system was that the sun is a big god, okay? And the sun penetrates or emanates its rays into the king, and the king and the sun sort of become like one body, right? So the sun's powers are kind of like added into the king. And because of that, the king is an appointed God by another god, right? Which is why they would claim that they are one of the gods, right? So Musa alayhi salam dealt with two pharaohs in his time. When Musa alayhi salam was brought up in the palace of Pharaoh, that pharaoh's name was Ramesses, okay, or Rameses. And when Musa alayhi salam grew up, he would see the atrocities that the people of the Pharaoh would do on Bani Israel. And one time he was trying to save one of the Israeli people, children of Israel, from getting beat up, and he pushed one of the soldier who was hitting that person, and in doing so, the force was so impactful that soldier died. Out of the fear that he is going to get punished, Musa alayhi salam ran and came into the area of Shu'aib alayhi salam, where he met Shu'aib alayhi salam and then married one of his daughters and stayed there for about 10 years until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guided him to become a prophet and sent him back to Egypt to call Fir'aun to Islam and free Bani Israel. When Musa alayhi salam goes back to Pharaoh after 10 years, now the original Pharaoh, the one in whose palace he was raised, he had already died, and his son had taken over the throne. So it was now a new Pharaoh, okay? But Musa alayhi salam, which is why Musa alayhi salam knew him because they kind of like grew up together in the palace. And Musa alayhi salam also knew the palace and how things were being done because he literally grew up there. So the palace and its ways and customs were not unknown to him. All right. And this pharaoh, his establishment was so vast that he wasn't just like ruling the Egypt area. He was like his borders that he was controlling was from Syria to Libya. And he was also controlling the borders of the shores of the Rome and the Abyssinian desert, meaning he had quite advanced his kingdom. All right. So Musa alayhi salam goes to Fir'aun in his palace and he says, Inni rasulun min rabbil alameen. Indeed, I am a messenger from the Lord of the worlds. Now, before he goes, into the palace. Obviously, Musa alayhi salam is a bit fearful that they're going to punish him for the crime that he committed 10 years back. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had reassured him that no, that he will not be harmed, he will not be killed, meaning Musa alayhi salam will not be killed. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestowed Musa alayhi salam with two miracles. And we know one of the miracles was the miracle of the staff, and the other miracle was that he could put his hand, his right hand in his left armpit, and it would turn out to be very brightening, shining bright. Okay. And this is what, inshallah, we will be seeing in this chapter. So what happened? When Musa alayhi salam says, indeed, I am the messenger of God, and he says, حَقِيقٌ عَلَىٰ أَن لَا أَقُولَ عَلَى اللَّهِ إِلَّا الْحَقِّ, who is obligated not to say about Allah except the truth. Meaning, I'm obligated by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to tell you the truth. I have come to you with clear evidence from your Lord. So send with me the children of Israel. So send with me the children of Israel. So Musa alayhi salam had three requests, actually two requests from Fir'aun. The first thing was that he introduced himself as a messenger of God. And his first request was that Fir'aun gives up the title of God. Okay. His second request was to free the Bani Israel. And he said, just send them with me, meaning I'll take care of them. Let them go. Free them. They have been in your slavery for many, 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 many years. I mean, they're children born in slavery. So it wasn't just, it was generational enslavement. Okay. And remember, it was this Pharaoh's father, the father Pharaoh, who had commanded that Bani Israel's sons be killed, right? When Musa alayhi salam was saved by his mother, he should put him in a basket and put him in a river. Pharaoh said, if you have come with a sign, then bring it forth, if you should be the truthful. If you should be of the truthful. So he's like, okay, if you have a sign, then show it to me. فَأَلْقَى عَصَاهُ. So Musa alayhi salam threw his staff, and suddenly the staff turned into a big snake, a huge snake that started like hissing at Fir'aun, and Fir'aun got actually very scared, right? And he drew out his hand thereupon. It was white with radiance for the observers, meaning he took out his arm from his hand from the armpit, and his hand was shining bright, radiating. قال الملأ, said the eminent amongst the people of Pharaoh. So the people, obviously, any king, when he's sitting in his palace, he's not sitting alone. There are people around him, his advisors, his prominent people in the society are there. So what they say to Fir'aun that, you know what, this looks like a magic to us. He went, and in 10 years, he probably got a good teacher. He's learned this magic, and his plan is to overthrow you, and he's trying to get rid of you. I think that's what it is. Why did they think it was magic? Because you know, they used to worship like the stars and the sun, and they used to also worship a cow. So in the time of Pharaoh, there was a lot of multiple worshiping happening, and the worship of the cow was also very prominent. Okay. And there were a lot of magicians there. So magic was like a sport. And Pharaoh used to, like, for any big gatherings or festival, he would call out big magicians to, you know, put on a show. I mean, they didn't really have TV back then, right? So their entertainment was the magic shows. So the people around Pharaoh said, you know what? This guy learned pretty good magic. So if you don't snub it now, he's gonna fool other people and try to overthrow you because the magic is pretty strong. Who wants to expel you from your land? I mean, said the eminent amongst the people of Pharaoh, indeed, this is a learned magician who wants to expel you from your land through magic. So what do you instruct? What should we do with him? They said, postpone the matter of him and his brother and send among the city's gatherers who will bring you every learned magician. So they said that, so from this we know that Musa alayhi salam did not go alone. He went with his brother Harun. Now Harun alayhi salam was 3 years older than Musa alayhi salam. Okay. And the magicians came to Pharaoh. They said, indeed, for us is a reward if we are the predominant. So What happened? Pharaoh called out for a big festival. He said, let's celebrate a day. We're going to have this competition. Let's see who wins. And he was so confident that, his magicians are going to win because you know what? They had a lot of magicians. So he called out all the magicians nearby and far. And then when the magicians entered the palace, they said to him, hey, we're going to do this, but we're going to get rewarded, right? Like if we win, you're going to pay us, right? So this is what this ayah is talking about. قال, he said, نعم. إنكم وإنكم لمن المقربين. Not just that I'm going to pay you, I'm actually also going to make you very near and dear to me. I mean, you're going to get some titles in my city. قالوا. They said, so the magician said, Ya Musa, O Musa, either you throw your staff or we will be the ones to throw first. Meaning, who wants to go first? Musa. So they gave him the respect of like a competitor and they said, okay, Musa, do you want to start or shall we start? Qala, he said, Musa alayhi salam said, Alqu, you throw, meaning, why don't you throw what you gotta show, right? And when they threw their staffs, because all of them had their staffs and ropes, so they threw their staffs and ropes, they bewitched the eyes of the people and struck terror into them, and they presented a great feat of magic. Magic is deception of eyes, okay? So the kind of magic they used to practice was deception of eyes, meaning the actual thing would not change, but the person would think, would see it different. Okay. So when they threw their staff and ropes, their staff and ropes did not actually turn into snakes, but it appeared to the people. To the people, it looked like that it had turned into snakes. So this was the reality of magic. It's the deception of eyes. It's an illusion. It's an illusion. And we inspired Musa. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspired Musa alayhi salam to throw. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspired him to say, throw your staff. And at once it devoured what they were falsifying. So when Musa alayhi salam threw down his staff, it actually turned into a snake. Others were appearing to be one. His actually turned into a snake, and then the snake didn't just like hiss at them, it actually went ahead and ate up their staffs and their ropes that were appearing to be snakes. So it shocked everyone. And the magicians right away recognized that this is not magic, because magic cannot change the asl, the reality or the core of things. He not only changed the core of something, but that core destroyed our illusion. So right away, the magicians recognized that this is far superior. This is divine hand. This is not any form of magic that they had learned, because they were quite learned in magic. فَوَقَعَ الْحَقُّ وَبَطَلَ مَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. So the truth was established and abolished was what they were doing. فَغُلِبَ هُنَالِكَ. And Pharaoh and his people were overcome right there and became debased. وَأُلْقِيَ السَّحَرَةُ سَاجِدِينَ. And the magicians fell down in prostration. So Allah caused defeat to Pharaoh openly in public. Now Pharaoh, when he did this festival, he did this not just in front of his close people. He called everybody in the city so that he would humiliate Musa alayhi salam, and then everybody would, and there would be no hope for any kind of rebellion in the city. But instead, it fired back. His plot fired back, that not just everybody was in awe, but the magicians, all of the magicians themselves prostrated, did the sajda shukr. It's called sajda shukr, the sajda of gratitude to Musa alayhi salam, and admitted that the Musa's God is the true God. So it was like totally reversed on him. قالوا آمنا برب العالمين. They said, the magician said, we have believed in the Lord of the worlds, Rabbi Musa wa Harun, the Lord of Musa and Harun. قال فرعون, the Fir'aun said, أأمنتم به قبل أن أذن لكم? You believed in him even before I gave you permission? How could you believe in him even though I have not permitted it for you? إن هذا لمكر مكر مكرتموه في المدينة لتخرجوا منها أهلها فسوف تعلمون. Indeed, this is a conspiracy which you conspired in the city to expel there from its people, but you are going to know. لأقطعن أيديكم وأرجلكم من خلاف. So Pharaoh blamed them that you are conspiring against me. This is all a conspiracy. And then he threatened them that I'm going to cut off your hands and your feet in opposite sides, then I will surely crucify you. Then I won't just cut off your hands, and then I will hang you up and crucify you. So he threatened them with extreme punishment. What did they reply? Did they get afraid? Did the fear tactic work on them? No, it did not. It did not work on them. The magicians said, قالوا, they said, Inna ila rabbina munqalibun. Indeed, to our Lord is our return. Yeah, you can punish us, you can torture us, by all means. We are ultimately going back to our Lord. So if we go tortured in his way, we will be accepted. So by all means, do whatever you want to do. And you do not resent us except because we believed in the signs of our Lord. Meaning the only reason you want to punish us is because we believed in the signs of our Lord. Our Lord. And then they made dua, subhanallah. The magicians who converted, who became Muslims. And some ulama say that it wasn't just the magicians that became Muslims at that time. Some of the people within the Pharaoh's kingdom, who were the elite of that class, some of them also accepted Islam at that time. And then they all made this dua, رَبَّنَا أَفْرِغْ عَلَيْنَا صَبْرًا. Oh Allah, pour upon us sabr. وَتَوَفَّنَا مُسْلِمِينَ. And let us die as Muslims. Highlight this. This is a beautiful dua that we learn in the Quran. And it was the dua of the magicians and the elites of Fir'aun that had accepted Islam. And then they were afraid that they were going to be punished because of their Islam. When we encounter in our life a situation where we might be afraid of our lives, and we might think that we will be punished for following the deen, or we might feel some kind of injustice, make this dua and remember the iman of these magicians who were threatened for torture, but they did not budge. وقال الملأ من قوم فرعون. And the eminent amongst the people of the Pharaoh said, will you leave Musa and his people to cause corruption in the land and abandon you and your gods? Meaning, are you just going to let Musa just roam freely in the city? I mean, he's caused an uproar in the city. He's caused so much rebellion in the city. Fir'aun said, we will kill their sons and keep their women alive. And indeed, we are subjugators over them. So Fir'aun said, you know what? This is getting out of hands. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do exactly what my dad did. I'm going to start killing their sons again. I mean, this whole generation wipe their sons out entirely, right? And leave their women, and we will turn their women into slaves. So this is the second time the punishment of killing of the kids comes about on Bani Israel. Musa said to his nation. Then Musa alayhi salam obviously knew that his people are going to be scared now. You know, another again, we're going to have to give up our children again. The killing of our babies is going to start. So Musa alayhi salam said to his people, seek help through Allah. Ista'inu billahi wasbiru. Seek help with Allah, wasbiru, and be patient on what is about to incur upon you. Innal arda lillahi yurithuha man yasha'u min ibadihi. Indeed, the earth belongs to Allah. He causes to inherit it whom He wills of His servants. And the best outcome is for the righteous. وَالْعَاقِبَةُ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. Right now you're going to be tried. Right now you're going to be tested. Right now you are oppressed, but be patient. Ista'inu billah. Ask Allah for help. Ultimately, eventually, the end result will be in your favor. But the people being people, you know what they said? They said, oh Musa, we were in difficulty. We were being tortured before you came. Our life was miserable before your arrival. And our life is still miserable after your arrival. What benefit do we have of having a prophet? So they criticized that our lives did not improve. We thought having a prophet would improve our lives, but no, we were facing difficulties before you, and even after you, we're still facing difficulties. They said, we have been harmed before you came to us, and after you have come to us, he said, perhaps your Lord will destroy your enemy and grant you succession in the land, and see how you will do. And again, he said, have patience. Soon, maybe Allah will grant you victory. وَلَقَدْ أَخَذْنَا آلَ فِرْعَوْنَ بِالسِّنِينَ وَنَقْصٍ مِّنَ الثَّمَرَاتِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَذَكَّرُونَ. And we certainly seized the people of Fir'aun with years of famine and a deficiency in fruit, and perhaps they would be reminded. So famine and deficiency of fruits and vegetables came upon the people of Fir'aun. And when this misery came upon them, they still had this robe of Musa alayhi salam. They had this fear of Musa alayhi salam. They deep down knew that he's the God's prophet, so they couldn't harm him directly. But they would taunt him and tease him. Musa alayhi salam stayed in that city, but his aura was so strong and the promise of Allah was there that he would not be killed. So he continued to preach. While he was preaching, Fir'aun could not really touch him or harm him. And the famine and these difficulties started coming on the people of the Pharaoh. But when good came to them, they said, this is ours by right, meaning whenever a year would come where it would rain or it would be prosperous, they would say, oh, this is from us, from our gods. This is our good doings. And if a bad condition would strike them, would Allah would test them with kind of a famine or a plague, they would see it as an evil omen. In Moses, they would say it's the evilness of Musa alayhi salam, na'uzu billah, and those with him. We are being punished because of Musa alayhi salam by our gods. Unquestionably, their fortune is with Allah, but most of them do not know. And they said, no matter what sign you bring us with which to bewitch us, we will not be believers in you. And the people of Fir'aun said that, you know what? No matter how great of a magic you bring to us, we're not going to believe you. They still associated him with magic. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down 6 punishments upon the people of Fir'aun consecutively, year after year. The first punishment that came upon them was of the flood. And when the flood came, so we sent upon them the flood and the locusts and lice and frogs and blood as distinct signs, but they were arrogant and were a criminal people. The first thing was a huge amount of rain happened and it flooded their crops. So they come to Musa and they ask Musa to free them, to make dua to their Rabb, to free them of this punishment. So Musa alayhi salam would make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would remove that punishment, and then they would go back to their old ways. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down the punishment of locusts. And what these locusts did, they would eat up their crops. They would eat up their crops. So they got really worried again that we're going to starve again. Famine is going to come back again. So they come to Musa alayhi salam and ask Musa alayhi salam to make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to free them. Musa alayhi salam makes dua. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala removes the punishment. They go back to their old ways. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala punishes them again with insects. So what they did, they were being clever. They cut off their crops and they stored them in storage rooms, thinking now the rain cannot affect it and the locusts cannot enter storage room. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala caused an insect, lice, to eat up their crops within the storage rooms. Subhanallah. Then they panicked. They come to Musa alayhi salam and they say, Musa, make dua for us. And Musa alayhi salam makes dua for them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala removes the punishment and then they still go back to their old ways. Then another punishment comes on them, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala floods the city with frogs so much that in their utensils, in their food, the whole city is filled with frogs on their heads, hand, arms. They couldn't do anything. And whenever they opened their mouths to drink water, blood started coming out of them. And then blood started spreading everywhere. They were so fed up from their lives. They come back to Musa to make dua. He makes dua. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala removes it. Then they go back to their old ways. And when the punishment descended upon them, they said, oh Musa, invoke for us your Lord by what he has promised you. If you can remove the punishment from us, we will surely believe you and we will send with you the children of Israel. Meaning we will let these children of Israel go with you. Just remove this punishment. But they would never fulfill their promise. But when we removed the punishment from them until a term which they were to reach, then at once they broke their word. So we took retribution from them and we drowned them in the sea because they denied our signs and were heedless of them. And the final punishment that came upon them is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded Musa alayhi salam to leave the city with Bani Israel. And he did that when the final punishment came upon them. Then after the frogs and the blood, plague came upon them, plague and famine. so many people within the people of Fir'aun started dying, and they were so like overwhelmed by the excessive amount of deaths that they didn't realize when Musa alayhi salam left the city with Bani Israel. And when Musa alayhi salam had already entered, he was already near the Nile River, and by the command of Allah, when he hit his staff and the sea split into two, when he was in the middle of it, that's when they realized that Musa has left, and they ran after him. They grabbed all their soldiers to run after and kill them. And while they crossed the path, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala drowned Fir'aun and all his people and soldiers. So we took retribution from them, and we drowned them in the sea because they denied our signs and were heedless of them. And we caused the people who had been oppressed to inherit the eastern regions of the land and the western ones, which we had blessed. And the good word of your Lord was fulfilled for the children of Israel because of what they had patiently endured. And we destroyed all that Pharaoh and his people were producing and what they had been building, meaning everything was destroyed with the people of Fir'aun, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saved Bani Israel. And then they came into a desert. And we took the children of Israel across the sea. Then they came upon a people intent in devotion to some idols of theirs. They said, "O Musa, make for us a god just as they have gods." Indeed, he said, "Indeed, you are a people behaving ignorantly." So after Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala parts the sea for them, and they are in the seashore area, near that area, they come across a nation or come across a group of people who are worshiping idols. This reminds them of their worship of the cow in Egypt. And remember, they were generational slaves. So the love of that kind of worship and custom was embedded in them. It was like as if in their blood. So the moment they saw it, they're like, oh man, we kind of miss that. We kind of miss worshiping idols. So they said to Musa, the one man who's telling them to worship God, the one man who brings miracles from God, right? Whose miracles they are seeing with their own eyes, they tell Musa, oh Musa, can you make us an idol so we can also worship God like that? So Musa alayhi salam says, قَالَ إِنَّكُمْ قَوْمٌ تَجْهَلُونَ. Indeed, you are a people behaving ignorantly. Indeed, those worshippers indeed those destroyed is that in which they are engaged, and worthless is whatever they are doing, meaning whatever worship these people are doing, they're destroyed. It's not useful. And whatever amal, whatever action they're doing, it's not going to be accepted. And then he said, قَالَ أَغَيْرَ اللَّهِ. Is it other than Allah I should desire for you as a God, while He has preferred you over the worlds? وَهُوَ فَضَّلَكُمْ عَلَى الْعَالَمِينَ. He preferred you, He blessed you with so many blessings, He saved you, and Allah has so many plans for you. He wants to choose you over the nations to guide them. And you are choosing to worship an idol. You want me to choose another God besides Allah for you? And recall, O children of Israel, when we saved you from the people of Pharaoh, who were afflicting you with the worst torment, killing your sons and keeping your women alive. And that was a great trial from your Lord. And we made an appointment with Moses for 30 nights and perfected them by addition of 10. So the term of his Lord was completed as 40 nights. And Moses said to his brother Aaron, Harun, take my place amongst my people, do right by them, and do not follow the way of the corrupters. So after they are saved from the people of Fir'aun, now they are in this desert, in this area, and now they need Sharia. Now they have to establish a deen. Now the people need guidance. People need legislations. People need to know what to do, how to live their life. They have been living their life as slaves, so they had no intellectual capability anymore. People needed to be trained. Their bad habits needed to be uprooted and good habits needed to be introduced. So they needed a guideline of life. All their life, they had been doing what they were told by Fir'aun. Now they needed new vision, new atmosphere, new kitab. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls Musa alayhi salam on Mount Sinai. And he calls him for 30 nights. So Musa leaves his people telling them he's going for 30 nights. But when Musa alayhi salam gets there, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes him stay for 10 more nights. And from what we understand is that Musa alayhi salam would fast during the days for 40 days. And then he would do like ibadah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at night time, like sort of like Qiyamul Layl. right? And he left Harun alayhi salam as an in charge over them because Musa alayhi salam knew that these people are so like, ignorant that they're going to seize any opportunity to start worshiping an idol. So he did not want to leave a gap. He thought that with an absence of a teacher, they're going to go astray. Because right now they're just fresh out of slavery. They're going to follow anything because they're followers, they've been followers. Musa alayhi salam wanted to turn them into leaders. So he needed to train them, but he's leaving. So somebody has to be left in charge. Without a proper leader, they're going to get lost. So he leaves this responsibility on Harun alayhi salam. And when Musa arrived at an appointed time and his Lord spoke to him, he said, "My Lord, show me yourself that I may look at you." قال ربي أرني أنظر إليك. قال, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, "You will not see me, but look at the mountains. If it should remain in place, then you will see me." But when his Lord appeared to the mountain, he rendered it level, and Musa felt unconscious. And when he woke up, he said, "Exalted are you. Subhanaka, tubtu ilayk. I have repented to you. Wa ana awwalul mu'mineen, and I am the first of the believers." So what happened here? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did kalam. He spoke to Musa alayhi salam directly, as he did not speak to anyone else. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted the miracle of staff and the radiant hand to Musa alayhi salam, it was a direct communication with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at that time. And even at Mount Sinai, what's happening is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking to Musa alayhi salam directly. So they're talking. And while talking, Musa alayhi salam develops a desire in his heart. He's like, "Ya Rabbi, I want to see you." It's a desire out of love. Like when you talk to somebody for a while, but you want to see them, right? You want to see what they look like, who they are, how they do. In long distance relationships, what happens? People want to see each other, right? When you hear the voice of somebody you love, you develop this natural desire that I want to see this person, right? So Musa alayhi salam developed this desire. He's like, "I want to see you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala," right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, "No, you cannot see me. You do not have the ability to see me. And you can only see me," in a sarcastic way, he said that, "you can only see me if this mountain is not affected by my nur." So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed himself a little bit to the mountain on the side, and the mountain turned into ashes, turned into dust, because the mountain couldn't handle the aura of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the nur of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Musa alayhi salam just saw a spark of it and he felt unconscious. And when he woke up, Musa alayhi salam realized that no, he should not have asked for this, which is why he sought forgiveness. Not because he made a mistake, not because he was arrogant. He realized that he shouldn't even have asked for something like this. And he said, "Wa ana awwalul mu'mineen, and I am one of the first of the believers." Qala ya Musa. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, "Ya Musa, O Musa, innis tafaytuka ala nas. I have chosen you over the people. بِرِسَالَتِي, with my message, وَبِكَلَامِي, and my word to you. فَخُذْ مَا آتَيْتُكَ, so take what I've given you. وَكُمْ مِنَ الشَّاكِرِينَ, and be amongst the grateful. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to Musa, "Oh Musa, I've already chosen you. Whether you get to see me or not, you're already chosen because I spoke to you. I'm choosing you for my message. So take what I'm giving you." And this is the point where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives Musa alayhi salam the tablets of Torah. Torah is given to Musa alayhi salam at this point. وَكَتَبْنَا لَهُ فِي الْأَلْوَاهِ مِنْ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ, and we wrote for him in the tablets something of all things, instructions and explanations for all things, saying, "Take them with determination and order your people to take the best of it. I will show you the home of the defiantly disobedient." So take these tablets, take these instructions, and now go back to your nation and guide them so they can establish my Sharia on the land. So أَصْرِفُ عَنْ آيَاتِي, I will turn away from my signs those who are arrogant upon the earth without right. And if they should see every sign, they will not believe in it. And if they see the way of consciousness, they will not adopt it as a way. But if they see the way of error, they will adopt it as a way. That is because they have denied our signs and they were heedless of them. وَالَّذِينَ كَذَّبُوا بِآيَاتِنَا, those who denied our signs and the meetings of the hereafter, their deeds have become worthless. حَبِطَتْ أَعْمَالُهُم. So here we learn that anybody that does a good action but is on kufr, any charity that they do while being on kufr, حَبِطَتْ أَعْمَالُهُم. Their good deeds will be consumed. They will become worthless. And in the previous ayah, in ayah number 146, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about the result of the people who will have kibr. Anybody who does kibr, سَأَصْرِفُ عَنْ آيَاتِيَ الَّذِينَ يَتَكَبَّرُونَ. I will turn them away from my signs, those who are arrogant. The punishment of the people of arrogant is mentioned, that anybody who has arrogance or kibr in their heart, they will not be forgiven and they will not enter Jannah. From a hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we learned that anybody who has an ounce weight, a mustard seed's weight of kibr in his heart, he will not enter Jannah. So Sahaba became curious and they asked Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Ya Rasulullah, every human being likes to dress well and likes to look beautiful. Would that be kibr? Would that be feeling proud? Like when you dress up nicely and you feel good about it, would that be proud? How do you get rid of that? So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam replied that no, that is not kibr. He said, Allah is beautiful and He loves beauty. Kibr is to deny Allah and to deny the truth out of your own ego and to consider people worthless, to treat people as if they are nothing. That is kibr. Kibr is not you dressing up nicely and you looking beautiful. That is not kibr. Okay, alhamdulillah. But to consider people worthless while you're dressed nicely, that would be kibr. You're at a party, Allah has blessed you with wealth, Allah has blessed you with jewels, you're looking pretty, but there are some people who are not dressed as like you, right? Everybody dresses according to their own istita'ah. You don't even bother saying salam to them. You don't even bother sitting with them. You don't even bother eating with them. Now that is considering them lowly. That is considering them worthless. Now that would be kibr. That would be kibr. Okay? May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala take all forms of kibr out of us. وَاتَّخَذَ قَوْمُ مُوسَى مِنْ بَعْدِهِ. And the people of Musa alayhi salam made after his departure, meaning when Musa alayhi salam left, he told them for 30 days I'm going, but 10 days got delayed. So they started developing doubts in their mind that I don't think Musa is coming back. So they gave their jewels, their gold that they had brought to a trickster whose name was Samri and asked him to make them a calf, so they could worship. So they took advantage of Musa alayhi salam's absence and delay to create a god for themselves. And the people of Musa made after his departure from their ornaments a calf, an image having a lowing sound, meaning the calf used to make a sound because of the wind. Do they not see that it could neither speak to them nor guide them to a way? They took it for worship and they were wrongdoers. Now remember, this has all happened while Harun alayhi salam was there. Harun alayhi salam was supervising them, yet they still did it. And when regret overcame them and they saw that they had gone astray, they said, if our Lord does not have mercy upon us and forgive us, we will surely be amongst the losers. And when Musa alayhi salam returned to his people, angry and grieved. Now Musa alayhi salam comes back and he is angry and so upset. Musa alayhi salam's personality was like, there was jalal in his personality. There was like, he was a personality where he entered, people noticed, right? He was a kind of a man who could get angry and establish his rule. Like when he said something, it mattered, right? He was with a loud voice. He had a strong aura around him, right? And he was somebody who would get angry faster as well. Contrary to him, Harun alayhi salam's personality was very mild and very soft. He was very soft-spoken, Harun alayhi salam, and he was very like mild, like gentle, right? So people took advantage of the gentle personality of Harun alayhi salam and overcame him. But to Musa alayhi salam, they were a bit scared of Musa alayhi salam. They couldn't overcome Musa, but Harun alayhi salam, like Musa alayhi salam was more of a leader, right? A leader has to have this quality in him. A leader should be gentle, and leader should be able to become harsh as well. A leader should be able to assert and affirm and put his authority down. That is the quality of a good leader, that he can balance both behaviors. Harun alayhi salam wasn't necessarily a leader like Musa alayhi salam, but he was in itself also a prophet, because Musa alayhi salam had asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give him the same message. So Harun alayhi salam was sort of like a right hand to Musa alayhi salam, a gentle personality, a calm personality, and they were both working very well together, right? So when Musa alayhi salam returns to his people angry and grieved, he said, "How wretched is that by which you have replaced me after my departure? Were you impatient over the matter of your Lord? Meaning, I only got delayed for 10 days and you were that impatient that you couldn't wait for me to come to bring guidance for you, and you just started worshiping someone else?" And he threw down the tablets, meaning in his anger, Musa alayhi salam threw down the tablets and seized his brother. He grabbed Harun alayhi salam by the hair of his head, pulling him towards him. Like he grabbed Harun alayhi salam by his beard and his hair on his head and dragged him. He got angry at him that I left you in charge. And what did you do? You did not fulfill your responsibility. He was angry at him. Harun alayhi salam, being calm and gentle, he says to his brother, "O son of my mother." He doesn't say, "Oh, my brother." It's very interesting. He says, "Qala ibna O son of my mother." So Musa alayhi salam's anger would calm down when he would hear the name of his mother, right? Because as a brother, he's angry with his brother. But now to bring to incite mercy in the heart of Musa alayhi salam, he says, "O son of my mother, indeed the people oppressed me. Innal qawma stada'afuni. They overpowered me. وَكَادُوا يَقْتُلُونَنِي. And they were about to kill me. So let not be. فَلَا تُشْمِتْ بِالْأَعْدَاءِ بِالْأَعْدَاءِ. So let not the enemies rejoice over me. I mean, do not make me a mockery in front of these people by you punishing me. And do not place me amongst the wrongdoer people. وَلَا تَجْعَلْنِي مَعَ الْقَوْمِ الظَّالِمِينَ. Do not count me like them. I'm not like them. I'm not worshipping the cow. I did not create the cow. I was the one stopping them from the cow, but they were not listening to me. I keep telling them, but they were not listening to me. They did not consider me. They did not give me any importance. Qala. So Musa alayhi salam then calmed down his anger. He realized that, okay, it's not Harun's mistake. And he said, قَالَ رَبِّ اغْفِرْ لِي وَلِأَخِي. Oh, my Lord, forgive me and my brother. وَأَدْخِلْنَا فِي رَحْمَتِكَ. And admit us into your mercy. وَأَنْتَ أَرْحَمُ الرَّاحِمِينَ. And you are the most merciful of the merciful. Meaning, now what should we do? Guide us. Like, have us mercy. Like, it wasn't Harun's fault. So they both seek Allah's forgiveness in that. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ اتَّخَذُوا الْإِعْجِلَ سَيَنَالُهُمْ. Indeed, those who took the calf for worship will obtain anger from the Lord and the humiliation and the life of this world, and thus do we recompense the inventors of falsehood. وَالَّذِينَ عَمِلُوا السَّيِّئَاتِ ثُمَّ تَابُوا مِن بَعْدِهَا. But those who committed misdeeds and then repented after them and believed, indeed your Lord thereafter is forgiving and merciful. وَلَمَّا سَكَتَ عَن مُوسَى الْغَضَبُ أَخَذَ الْأَلْوَاحَ. And when the anger subsided in Musa, when Musa alayhi salam calmed down, he took up the tablets. And in their inscription was guidance and mercy for those who are fearful of their Lord. We learned that in the guidance of Allah, in the commandments of Allah, there's mercy for people, there's rahmah. وَاخْتَارَ مُوسَى قَوْمَهُ. And Musa alayhi salam chose from his people 70 men for our appointment. Now, when did this happen? After this incident, they did tawbah. And when Musa alayhi salam brought them the tablet, and now Musa alayhi salam is telling them, these are the commands of Allah written in the tablet, some of the people objected and they said, "Oh Musa, why did you only get to communicate with Allah? How do we know? I mean, you went and you bring this tablet to us. How do we know that it's from Allah? We did not see this happen in front of us. You went in secret. For all we know, you went and wrote it yourself. So we want to see you communicate with Allah directly. We want to see what you see. We want to feel what you feel. So, and Musa, so Allah, so by the will of Allah, by the command of Allah, Musa alayhi salam chose 70 people from his, from Bani Israel. Now remember, Bani Israel were from the 12 sons of Yaqub alayhi salam. There were 12 tribes. So from each tribe, Musa alayhi salam selected 6 people. That makes 72 people. So when 72 people gathered, Musa alayhi salam requested that 2 of you, if you leave behind, Allah will have mercy on you. The 2 people left behind and 70 went to Mount Sinai to see how Musa alayhi salam got the tablets. And Musa alayhi salam chose from his people 70 men for our appointment. And when the earthquake seized them, he said, "My Lord, if you had willed, you could have destroyed them before, and me as well. Would you destroy us for what the foolish amongst us have done? This is not but your trial by which you send astray whom you will and guide whom you will. You are our protector. So forgive us and have mercy upon us, and you are the best of the forgivers." So what happened? They go to Mount Sinai, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala causes all the 70 men to die because nobody can see the nur of Allah. Nobody could see see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Musa alayhi salam is like, he panics. Musa alayhi salam is like, "Ya Rabbi, if you wanted to kill them, you could have killed them while they were in the city and, in front of other people." And Musa alayhi salam feared that now if he'll go back to his people without these 70 people, the people will question that you killed them. They will not believe Musa alayhi salam. So Musa alayhi salam felt that he was in a difficult situation now. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, after giving death to these people, he rose them back to life as a sign. And decree for us in this world that which is good, and also in the hereafter. Indeed, we have turned back to you. Allah said, "My punishment, I afflict with it whom I will, but my mercy encompasses all things. So I will decree it, especially for those who fear me and give zakah, and those who believe in our verses." So people did tawbah. Those 70 people did tawbah, and they're like, okay, now we will be good. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, if you fear me, you give your zakah, you believe in my verses, you follow how the kitab is supposed to be followed, you're going to be good. And who are those people who are going to be good? الَّذِينَ يَتَّبِعُونَ الرَّسُولَ. Who are the people who are going to be my promise for? Those who follow the messengers and the unlettered prophet. وَرَسُولَ النَّبِيَّ الْأُمِّيِّ. So here it was hinted towards Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is going to be somebody who did not know how to read and write. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took promise from Bani Israel at that time too, and gave them a hint in Torah, in their books, in Bible and Gospels and Torah. It was written that a Nabi will come who will be Ummi. And when he comes, you will follow his guidance. You will follow what he will tell you to do. Those who follow the messenger, the unlettered prophet, whom they find written in what they have of the Torah and the Gospel, who enjoins upon them what is right and forbids them what is wrong, and makes lawful for them the good things and prohibits for them the evil, and relieves them of their burden and the shackles which were upon them. So they who have believed in him, honored him, supported him, and followed the light which was sent down with him, it is those who will be successful. Now, this is where we will take a pause, and then we will play the recitation, inshallah ta'ala. All right, so let's play the recitation of the ayat that we just covered. We'll start from the story of ayah number 120. Yeah, ayah 108. Sorry, 120 would be better, I believe.
فوقع الحق وبطل ما كانوا يعملون فغلبوا هنالك وانقلبوا صاغرين وألقي السحرة ساجدين قالوا آمنا برب العالمين رب موسى وهارون قال فرعون آمنتم به قبل أن آذن لكم إن هذا لمكر مكرتموه في المدينة لتخرجوا منها أهلها فسوف تعلمون لأقطعن أيديكم وأرجلكم من خلاف ثم لأصلبنكم أجمعين قالوا إنا إلى ربنا منقلبون وما تنقم منا إلا أن آمنا بآيات ربنا لما جاءتنا ربنا أفرغ علينا صبرا وتوفنا مسلمين وقال الملأ من قوم فرعون أتذر موسى وقومه ليفسدوا في الأرض ويذرك وآلهتك قال سنقتل أبناءهم ونستحيي نساءهم وإنا فوقهم قاهرون قال موسى لقومه استعينوا بالله واصبروا إن الأرض لله يورثها من يشاء من عباده والعاقبة للمتقين قالوا أوذينا من قبل أن تأتينا ومن بعد ما جئتنا قال عسى ربكم أن يهلك عدوكم ويستخلفكم في الأرض فينظر كيف تعملون ولقد أخذنا آل فرعون بالسنين ونقص من الثمرات لعلهم يذكرون فإذا جاءتهم الحسنة قالوا لنا هذه وإن تصبهم سيئة يطيروا بموسى ومن معه ألا إنما طائرهم عند الله ولكن أكثرهم لا يعلمون وقالوا مهما تأتنا به من آية لتسحرنا بها فما نحن لك بمؤمنين فأرسلنا عليهم الطوفان والجراد والقمل والضفادع والدم آيات مفصلات فاستكبروا وكانوا قوما مجرمين ولما وقع عليهم الرجز قالوا يا موسى ادع لنا ربك بما عهد عندك لئن كشفت عنا الرجز لنؤمنن لك ولنرسلن معك بني إسرائيل فلما كشفنا عنهم الرجز إلى أجل هم بالغوه إذا هم ينكثون فانتقمنا منهم فأغرقناهم في اليم بأنهم كذبوا بآياتنا وكانوا عنها غافلين وأورثنا القوم الذين كانوا يستضعفون مشارق الأرض ومغاربها التي باركنا فيها وتمت كلمة ربك الحسنى على بني إسرائيل بما صبروا ودمرنا ما كان يصنع فرعون وقومه وما كانوا يعرشون وجاوزنا ببني إسرائيل البحر فأتوا على قوم يعكفون على أصنام لهم قالوا يا موسى اجعل لنا إلها كما لهم آلهة قال إنكم قوم تجهلون إن هؤلاء متبر ما هم فيه وباطل ما كانوا يعملون قال أغير الله أبغيكم إلها وهو فضلكم على العالمين وإذ أنجيناكم من آل فرعون يسومونكم سوء العذاب يقتلون أبناءكم ويستحيون نساءكم وفي ذلكم بلاء من ربكم عظيم وواعدنا موسى 30 ليلة وأتممناها ب10 فتم ميقات ربه 40 ليلة وقال موسى لأخيه هارون اخلفني في قومي وأصلح ولا تتبع سبيل المفسدين ولما جاء موسى لميقاتنا وكلمه ربه قال رب أرني أنظر إليك قال لن تراني ولكن انظر إلى الجبل فإن استقر مكانه فسوف تراني فلما تجلى ربه للجبل جعله دكا وخر موسى صعقا فلما أفاق قال سبحانك تبت إليك وأنا أول المؤمنين قال يا موسى إني اصطفيتك على الناس برسالاتي وبكلامي فخذ ما آتيتك وكن من الشاكرين وكتبنا له في الألواح من كل شيء موعظة وتفصيلا لكل شيء فخذها بقوة وأمر قومك يأخذوا بأحسنها سأريكم دار الفاسقين سأصرف عن آياتي الذين يتكبرون في الأرض بغير الحق وإن يروا كل آية لا يؤمنوا بها وإن يروا سبيل الرشد لا يتخذوه سبيلا وإن يروا سبيل الغي يتخذوه سبيلا ذلك بأنهم كذبوا بآياتنا وكانوا عنها غافلين والذين كذبوا بآياتنا ولقاء الآخرة حبطت أعمالهم هل يجزون إلا ما كانوا يعملون واتخذ قوم موسى من بعده من حليهم عجلا جسدا له خوار ألم يروا أنه لا يكلمهم ولا يهديهم سبيلا اتخذوه وكانوا ظالمين ولما سقط في أيديهم ورأوا أنهم قد ضلوا قالوا لئن لم يرحمنا ربنا ويغفر لنا لنكونن من الخاسرين ولما رجع موسى إلى قومه غضبان أسفا قال بئس ما خلفتموني من بعدي أعجلتم أمر ربكم وألقى الألواح وأخذ برأس أخيه يجره إليه قال ابن أم إن القوم استضعفوني وكادوا يقتلونني فلا تشمت بي الأعداء ولا تجعلني مع القوم الظالمين قال رب اغفر لي ولأخي وأدخلنا في رحمتك وأنت أرحم الراحمين إن الذين اتخذوا العجل سينالهم غضب من ربهم وذلة في الحياة الدنيا وكذلك نجزي المفترين والذين عملوا السيئات ثم تابوا من بعدها وآمنوا إن ربك من بعدها لغفور رحيم ولما سكت عن موسى الغضب أخذ الألواح وفي نسختها هدى ورحمة للذين هم لربهم يرهبون واختار موسى قومه 70 رجلا لميقاتنا فلما أخذتهم الرجفة قال رب لو شئت أهلكتهم من قبل وإياي أتهلكنا بما فعل السفهاء منا إن هي إلا فتنتك تضل بها من تشاء وتهدي من تشاء أنت ولينا فاغفر لنا وارحمنا وأنت خير الغافرين واكتب لنا في هذه الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة إنا هدنا إليك قال عذابي أصيب به من أشاء ورحمتي وسعت كل شيء فسأكتبها للذين يتقون ويؤتون الزكاة والذين هم بآياتنا يؤمنون الذين يتبعون الرسول النبي الأمي الذي يجدونه مكتوبا عندهم في التوراة والإنجيل يأمرهم بالمعروف وينهاهم عن المنكر ويحل لهم الطيبات ويحرم عليهم الخبائث ويضع عنهم إصرهم والأغلال التي كانت عليهم فالذين آمنوا به وعزروه ونصروه واتبعوا النور الذي أنزل معه أولئك هم المفلحون
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل يا أيها الناس إني رسول الله إليكم جميعا. Say, O Muhammad, O mankind, indeed I am the messenger of Allah to you all, from him to whom belongs the dominions of the heavens and the earth. لا إله إلا هو يحيي ويميت. There is no God but him. He is the one who gives life and causes death. فآمنوا بالله ورسوله النبي الأمي. So believe in Allah and His Messenger, and His unlettered messenger. By unlettered meaning somebody who does not know how to read and write. الذي يؤمن بالله وكلماته. Who believes in Allah. I mean, this prophet, he believes in Allah and His word. واتبعوه لعلكم تهتدون. So all of you should follow him so that you may be guided. And amongst the people of Musa is a community which guides by truth and by it establishes justice. SubhanAllah, in every society, there are people who are going to reject, and there's always going to be a group that accepts. 100% of any society is not completely bad. And if you notice, whenever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the previous Juz too, talks about Yahud wa Nasara, Jews and the Christians and other nations, he always mentions that there's always a group that is good amongst them. And even for Musa alayhi salam, he's mentioning that not all of the Bani Israel was bad. There were also some good apples in there that were on haqq, and they were establishing justice. Society is always composed of these kinds of people. There are good people, there are bad people, and then there are people in the middle who are indifferent, right? And from what we learn in the Quran is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not like the people who are indifferent. You have to pick a side. You either go on the side of the good or you go on the side of the bad. But being indifferent, that you don't care, you don't stop anyone, those people have also been punished in the Quran. And we divided them into 12 descendant tribes as distinct nations, meaning the Bani Israel were 12 distinct tribes. And we inspired to Musa alayhi salam when his people implored him for water. Now this is coming back. Now this is a flashback to the time when they were in desert of Sinai. Okay, and this was the time when they rejected to do jihad, and they rejected Musa alayhi salam's command to enter a city, and for 40 years they were left within the desert. And the main reason was it was a time of tarbiyah. It was time to change the generation. Now, when we look at it, older generation had become so staunch in their ways, so restrictive in their ways, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decided to keep them in the desert of Sinai for 40 years. So by that time, a new generation would be born in the city, in the desert, and that new generation will be full of zeal and valor and will be ready to fight in the way of Allah, will be ready to establish Sharia. And this is the pattern of Allah. Nations rise and fall within the span of 40 years, right? This is one of the, you can say, the secrets in the Quran that some ulama have highlighted. That based on this story and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned, some ulama infer from this, they do qiyas from this, that the nations rise could be for 40 years and then they fall for 40 years and they rise back again for 40 years. And based on this, some ulama have said that the fall of Bani Israel, the fall of the Zionist movement is coming soon. The Christian the Jews that have been hijacked by Zionist ideology and who are propagating or who have established Israel at the moment, their downfall is going to come soon because they have been in power for about 40 years now, or less than that a bit. Allahu a'lam, Allah knows best. And we divided them into 12 descendant tribes as distinct nations, and we inspired to Moses when his people implored him for water. So when they're in the desert Sinai, they ask Musa alayhi salam that we need water. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands them through Musa alayhi salam to strike his staff. When Musa says strike his staff, 12 rivers come out, and each tribe is given a leader within their tribe who's supposed to manage the economic and socio-economic affairs for them and establish the guidelines that Musa alayhi salam is giving them through the Torah. Okay? Strike with your staff the stone, and there gushed forth from it 12 springs. Every people knew its watering place, and we shaded them with clouds and sent down upon them manna and salwa. Manna and quails. Quails were the tiny birds that we talked about before. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, eat from the good things with which we have provided you. And they wronged us not. I mean, they did not do dhulm on us. وَلَكِنْ كَانُوا أَنفُسَهُمْ يَظْلِمُونَ, but they were only wronging themselves. And mention, O Muhammad, when it was said to them, dwell in the city and eat from it wherever you will, and say, relieve us of our burdens. And enter the gate bowing humbly. We will then forgive you your sins. We will increase the doers of good in goodness and reward. Now, this is talking about the time when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded them to enter a city in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made them victorious. So they had another jihad to do in which they became victorious. Now, when they were about to enter the city, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded them to enter with humility, but and doing shukr. Just like at the time of the victory of Mecca, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he was entering Mecca, he was entering with so much humility that his head was touching the hump of the camel. His head was so much down, and he was constantly doing istighfar, So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling them that وَادْخُلُوا الْبَابَ سُجَّدًا نَغْفِرْ لَكُمْ خَطِيئَاتِكُمْ. Enter the door humbly while saying istighfar, and we will increase the doers of good. So from this we learn that when Allah gives us victory or any blessing or any ni'mah, we should be doing istighfar even more at that time, out of gratitude. فَبَدَّلَ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا مِنْهُمْ قَوْلًا غَيْرَ الَّذِي. But those who wronged among them changed the words to a statement other than that which had been said to them. So we sent upon them a punishment from the sky for the wrong that they were doing. And asked them about the town that was by the sea, when they transgressed in the matter of the Sabbath, when their fish came to them openly on their Sabbath day, and the day they had no Sabbath, they did not come to them. Thus did we give them trial because they were defiantly disobedient. Now, this is a story that was very well known to the Jews of the Medina. It was very well known in the scriptures and very well known within the community. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is now, he gives a break from the story of Musa alayhi salam, And then he's commanding Rasulullah to remind the people of Medina about this incident of the Sabbath. What was the incident of the Sabbath? That within one day, they were told to not do any kind of work, no income to earn, only dedicate one day in the week to the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And to test them, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the fish on that day used to come out of the river like flying out. They used to come flying out. And they were like, oh my God, we can't really catch them on this day when this is the day when the fish come out of the sea most. So they created a tunnel so that fish would like trap themselves within that tunnel, and then they started taking the fish the next day. But they plotted for it for that day. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala became very angry with them. It's the story of the previous nation, became very angry with them and punished them in a way that their faces turned into monkeys. They started looking like monkeys for about 3 days. And then after that, they were killed. This story happened in the time of Dawood alayhi salam, time of David. Okay. And asked them about the town that was by the sea when they transgressed in the matter of the Sabbath, when their fish came to them openly on their Sabbath day, and the day they had no Sabbath, they did not come to them. Thus did we give them trial because they were defiantly disobedient. And when a community amongst them said, why do you advise or warn a people from whom Allah is about to destroy or to punish with severe punishment? Thus the advisor said, to be absolved before your Lord, and perhaps they may fear him. So when they were doing this Sabbath day, there was a group amongst them that were all obviously not involving themselves in the catching of the fish on the day when it was forbidden. So they would stop them. They were trying to stop them. So remember the 3 groups I talked about? One group was doing the evil. The other group is trying to stop them. But then there's a third group who said, this ayah is talking about the third group, who said to the group that was stopping the people and said, why are you even bothering with them? Why are you wasting your breath? These people are doomed. They're doomed for hellfire. There is no hope for them. Why are you wasting your breath and energies and getting stressed by them and stopping them from this? They're not going to listen to you. Don't tell them anything. They're not going to listen to you. So the people who were stopping them, they replied, قالوا معذرة إلى ربكم ولعلهم يتقون. We are saying them to establish our hujjah. We're saying them so that Allah will not hold us accountable that we did not try to stop them. We're absolving ourselves in front of our Lord, وَلَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَّقُونَ, so that they may fear him. And then we're also trying to advise them that you never know. Maybe one person will get guidance and get out of it. In a hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we know that we're supposed to do amr bil ma'ruf wa nahi anil munkar, right? Promote goodness and restrict evil. From a hadith, we know that there are 3 that if you see evil, you have to stop it with your hand. We have to stop it by our hand if we have the power to do so. And if we cannot stop it by our hand, we have to stop it by our tongue. We have to say something against it. We have to let people know about it. And if we don't find the courage or the iman to do that, then the last level of iman is what? That you consider it bad in your heart and you yourself don't involve in it. And for that, he said that this is the last level of iman, the most lowest level of iman. So when we live in a community, we cannot turn a blind eye to the fahish and the bad things happening in the community. We have to stop it. When somebody is doing injustice to someone, we have to tell them to stop. This is part of our iman, part of our deen. And when they forgot that by which they had been reminded, we saved those who had forbidden evil and seized those who wronged with a wretched punishment because they were defiantly disobedient. So when they were insolent about which they had been forbidden, we said to them, be apes, despised. So the punishment came. The people who disregarded the rule of Sabbath, they turned into apes and monkeys. And mention when your Lord declared that he would surely continue to send upon them until the day of resurrection. Oh, by the way, sorry, before I continue with this ayah, the monkeys of today's time are not those monkeys. People have this misconception. No, like I told, it happened in the time of David, in the time of Dawud alayhi salam. They stayed monkeys for 3 days, and after that, they all died. The wrongdoers died. Okay? And mention when your Lord declared that he would surely continue to send upon them until the day of resurrection those who would afflict them with the worst torment. Indeed, your Lord is swift in penalty, but indeed he is forgiving and merciful. This is the promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala regarding Bani Israel, that till the end of the times, they will not have a place for themselves. They will wander and wander and wander, and they will have no mercy. They will only get it temporarily for a little while, and till the end of the times, they will be destroyed. So this is where we're hopeful that despite the atrocities that they are doing in Israel right now, Israel will perish. It is a promise in the Quran. They will not stay in power forever. The victory of Muslimin will come. It is written. It is written. When it will come, we don't know exactly. How it will come, we don't know. But the signs of the last day are coming. The way this attack has happened, it feels like very close to the end of the days, when Israel will try to take over Palestine, and then eventually they will lose, and Isa alayhi salam will come, and Dajjal will come. Those signs, if you ever consult the signs of the Day of Judgment, and if you ever want to study them, I will highly recommend Yasir Qadi's series on the signs of the Day of Judgment. It's available on YouTube. Watch it, learn from it. He has collected all ahadith regarding the end of the times. And you will learn, and you will literally feel that what's happening is very close to the end of the times now. But know that this is a promise written in the Quran that Bani Israel will perish, and the true believers will have power eventually, inshallah ta'ala. And we divided them throughout the earth into nations. Of them some were righteous, and of some were otherwise. And we tested them with good times and bad, and perhaps they would return to obedience. And then followed them successors who inherited the scriptures while taking the commodities of this lower life and saying, it will be forgiven for us. Meaning, their generations that will come, the Bani Israel's for the generation will come, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, and they will develop this belief that they will be forgiven. No matter what they do, they will be forgiven. And this is written in the Quran. And that's exactly, I was watching a video of one of their rabbis, and he literally said, and I quote you, he said that anything that they do to infidels, it's forgiven for them. And it reminded me of this ayah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that they will corrupt the guidelines of Torah, and they will form this belief that they will be forgiven and absolved from anything that they do to non-Jews. And they followed them successors who inherited the scriptures while taking the commodities of this lower life and saying, it will be given for us. And if an offer like it comes to them, they will again take it. Was not the covenant of the scripture taken from them, that they would not say about Allah except the truth? And they studied that was in it. And the home of the hereafter is better for those who fear Allah. So will you not use reason? But those who hold fast to the book and establish prayer, we will not allow to be lost the reward of the reformers. Inna la nudi'u ajral muslihin. Those who try to do islah. And within the Jewish community, again, we see a lot of Jews who are trying to do islah of their community, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, those who will hold fast to the book, who are really seeking the truth, Allah will not waste their ajr. And mention when we raised the mountain above them as if it was a dark cloud, and they were certain that it would fall upon them. And Allah said, take what we have given you with determination, and remember what is in it, that you might fear. And mention when your Lord took from the children of Adam, from their loins, their descendants, and made them testify of themselves, saying to them, am I not your Lord? They said, yes, we have testified. This, lest you should say on the day of resurrection, indeed we were of this unaware. Now, this ayah number 172, is talking about the ahad, the promise of alast. Okay? Alastu bi rabbikum. And this is a promise that all of the people that ever came into this world or will come, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created their arwah, created their ruh, when Adam alayhi salam was born, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Adam alayhi salam, he created all his progenies, ruh at that time, the spirits, and he called them all. So all of us stood in front of Allah. All of our ruh and spirits stood in front of Allah, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked us this question, am I not your Rabb? And all of us, Muslims today, non-Muslims, mushrik, Jews, Christians, atheists, agnostic, whatever people associate with, all humanity unanimously said, yes, we witness that you are our Rabb. And this is the promise that we will be reminded of on the day of resurrection. And what happened, this is what we call fitrah, which is why, because all of us made this promise, all of us have the ability to recognize the truth. When we are born, we forget. Just like when a child is born, he forgets how his life was in the womb of the mother. We don't remember what we did in the mother's womb. We have the senses, but when we are born, we come into this dunya, we don't remember that life, which is why we don't remember making that promise, but the impact of that promise is on our ruh and on our nafs. So every single person on this planet Earth who has been born or will be born has the ability and the inner clock to recognize the truth when the truth is presented to them. Which is why we will not have an excuse on Yawm al-Qiyamah, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ask us, then why did you not accept when the truth came to you? Because we have this natural inclination towards the truth, and the people who deny it are the only ones who deny it out of ego and out of their own contempt. Or lest you say, it was only that our fathers associated others in worship with Allah before, and we were but descendants after them. Then would you destroy us for what the falsifiers have done? وَكَذَلِكَ نُفَصِّلُ الْآيَاتِ وَلَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْجِعُونَ. And thus do we explain in detail the verses, and perhaps they will return. And recite to them, O Muhammad, the news of him, a news of him to whom we gave knowledge of our signs, but he detached himself from them. Now comes the example of someone who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about, and it's a very scary ayat, the next two ayat. Someone who is given the taste of the knowledge, who is told, and he recognizes, because he has this, the spirit, the ruh recognizes the knowledge, right? So Allah says that when we give the knowledge to someone, after getting the knowledge, they get distracted by the world. After tasting Iman, after tasting its sweetness, they busy themselves with the world. They occupy their time with the worldly achievements. What do I make of them? What do I turn them into? These ayat talk about that. And recite to them, O Muhammad, the news of him, of whom we give knowledge of our signs, but he detached himself from them. He stopped learning. He stopped learning. He's like, I have too many other things to do. I'm not going to learn the deen at this point. So shaitan, فَأَتْبَعُهُ الشَّيْطَانُ. So shaitan pursued him, and he started following the ways of the shaitan, and he became of his deviators. وَلَوْ شِئْنَا لَرَفَعْنَاهُ. And we had willed, and if we had willed, we could have elevated him thereby. But he adhered to the earth and followed his own desire. Allah says, I wished for this person to raise high. I wanted to raise the levels of this person, but he chose to devalue himself and stick to the earthly things. He stick to the ground. He stick to the low-level earth and what the earth produced. He only wanted that. So his example is like that of a dog. Allah is calling that person a dog. كَمَثَلِ الْكَلْبِ. Al-Kalb. The dog word is mentioned in Arabic. So read the Arabic. كَمَثَلِ الْكَلْبِ. That person is like a dog. What kind of a dog? إِن تَحْمِلْ عَلَيْهِ يَلْهَثْ. If you chase him, he pants. Meaning he chases after dunya as if a dog is panting, a thirsty dog is panting. إِن تَحْمِلْ عَلَيْهِ يَلْهَثْ أَوْ تَتْرُكْهُ يَلْهَثْ. Or if you leave him, he still pants. I mean, whether he gets the water, he still pants. He doesn't get the benefit in this dunya, he still pants. A hungry, thirsty dog who's always panting for more, always running for more. ذَلِكَ مَثَلُ الْقَوْمِ الَّذِينَ كَذَّبُوا بِآيَاتِنَا. That is the example of the people who denies our signs. So relate the stories that perhaps they will give thought. فَقَصُصِ الْقَصَصَ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ. So relate these stories. Tell people the stories of the Quran. Tell them what's in it so that they might ponder. These ayat are really thought-provoking for us. Have we become that dog that pants for more and more and keeps running for more and more and is never satiated? Are we the dog running after the dunya, the one that Allah is giving this example of? Maybe Allah wants us to raise high. Allah wants us to give us hadayah, but we can't stick to the learning of the deen because we keep getting distracted by the works of the dunya. ساء مثل القوم الذين كذبوا بآياتنا وأنفسهم كانوا يظلمون. How evil is an example? How evil an example is that of the people who denied our signs and used to wrong themselves. Whoever Allah guides, He is the rightly guided, and whoever He sends astray, it is those who are the losers. And we have certainly created for hell many of the jinns and mankind. They have hearts with which they do not understand. لَهُمْ قُلُوبٌ لَا يَفْقَهُونَ. Their hearts do not perceive the truth. They have hearts at which they do not understand. They have eyes with which they do not see, and they have ears with which they do not hear. Those are like livestock. Rather, though they are more astray, meaning they're even more astray than cattle and animal, because animals and cattle do not have the perception that the humans do. But humans sometimes do not use the gifts that Allah has given of eyes and hearing and seeing and perception the way it should be. We're wasting them. Those are like livestock. Rather, they're more astray. It is they who are the heedless. أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْغَافِلُونَ. They're ghafil in this dunya. They're so busy in this dunya. They don't have time for Allah. Fine, you don't have time for Allah. Allah doesn't need you. وَلِلَّهِ الْأَسْمَاءُ الْحُسْنَى. And to Allah belongs the best names. To Allah belongs Asma'ul Husna. So what should you do, people? How should you remember Allah? How can you come out of this ghafla? How can you come out of this ghafla? فَدْعُوهُ بِهَا. Make dua to your Rabb. Make dua to your Rabb through His Asma'ul Husna, through His beautiful names. And leave the company of those who practice deviation concerning His names. Leave the company of bad people. Find good friends. Change your friends. فَيُجْزَوْنَ مَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. They will be recompensed for what they have been doing. We are a product of our company, are we not? In a hadith, we know that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has mentioned that Allah has 99 beautiful names. Whoever will remember them and often do dhikr of them, meaning whoever will remember those names, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant him Jannah. And amongst those we created is the community which guides by truth and thereby establishes justice. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us amongst those. But those who deny our signs, we will progressively lead them to destruction from where they do not know. وَأُمْلِي لَهُمْ إِنَّ كَيْدِي مَتِينٌ. And I will give them time. Indeed, my plan is firm. Meaning for those who are doing dhulm and who are astray and who are so busy in the life of this dunya, we often see them living a luxurious life. And we are like, why does Allah not punish them? Because Allah is saying, وَأُمْلِي لَهُمْ. I have given them respite. I've given them time to collect even more sins. Indeed, my plan is firm. أَوَلَمْ يَتَفَكَّرُوا. Then do they not give thought? Do they not do tafakkur? Do they not think? مَا بِصَاحِبٍ مِّن جِنَّةٍ. There is in their companion no madness, meaning Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is not mad. He's not crazy. إِلَّا نَذِيرٌ مُبِينٌ. إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا نَذِيرٌ مُبِينٌ. He is only but a clear warner. Do they not look into the realm of the heavens and the earth and everything that Allah has created and think that perhaps their appointed time has come near? Do people not do tafakkur on the heavens and the earth and see that the end of the time is coming? The qiyamah is coming soon? So in what statement hereafter will they believe? What do they need for them to believe? Whoever Allah sends astray, there is no guide for him, and He leaves them in their transgression, wandering blindly. يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ السَّاعَةِ أَيَّانَ مُرْسَاهَا. They ask you, Muhammad, about the hour, about the day of judgment, when it will come, when is its arrival. Say, its knowledge is only with Rabb. قُلْ إِنَّمَا, say, إِنَّمَا, indeed, ilmuha, its knowledge, in the Rabbi, is near my Rabb. None will reveal its time except Him. لا يجليها لوقتها إلا هو. ثقلت في السماوات والأرض. It lays heavily upon the heavens and the earth. It will not come upon you except unexpectedly. It will only come unexpectedly, meaning when you least expect for the day of judgment to come, when you're going to be extremely busy in your affairs of the dunya, that's when the day of judgment will come. They ask you as if you're familiar with it. Ya Rasulullah, يسألونك كأنك حفي عنها. They ask you as if you know something about it. قل, say, إنما علمها عند الله. Indeed, its knowledge is only with Allah. ولكن أكثر الناس لا يعلمون. And majority of the people, most of the people do not know. Say, O Muhammad, لا أملك لنفسي دفعا ولا ضرا إلا ما شاء الله. I do not hold for myself any power or any benefit or any harm except what Allah has willed. Meaning I cannot harm anybody, neither I can benefit anybody from my own will, except whom Allah wills. And this is an answer to the people who associate the power of giving to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and make dua to Rasulullah. Na'udhu billah. No, you cannot. Rasulullah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling Rasulullah to say, tell them you don't have that power. And if I knew the unseen, وَلَوْ كُنْتُ أَعْلَمُ الْغَيْبَ, if I knew the unseen, I could have acquired much wealth. Meaning if Rasulullah knew the secrets of the heavens and the earth, he would have been very rich. He would have gathered all the wealth in the world. I could have acquired much wealth and no harm would have touched me, and I would have rescued myself from all the harm. I mean, he was hurt in Battle of Uhud, right? He could have saved himself if he had the power of the unseen. He didn't. I am not except a warner. In ana illa nadhirun wa bashirun liqawmi yu'minun. And I am not except a warner and a bringer of good tidings to a people who believe. It is Allah who has the power, who has the knowledge of the unseen. It is He who created you from one soul and created from it its mate that He might dwell in security with her. Here the purpose of marriage is being told. هو الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وجعل منها زوجها ليسكن إليه. So that both of them become a source of sakina for each other. A question we should write for each other. Don't think about your spouse, whether your spouse is a source of peace for you or not. He will be questioned, or she will be questioned regarding her own deeds. The purpose of your union with your spouse is that you become a source of peace for your spouse. And the purpose of your spouse's marriage with you is that he becomes a source of peace for you. Write down a question for yourself. Am I a source of happiness? Am I a source of sakina and peace and security for my spouse? Am I doing my very best to be that? Okay? Do not consume yourself with what he's doing and he is not doing. For a moment, you're going in your own grave, we're going in our own grave, he's going in his own grave. For a moment, evaluate your own conduct, inshallah. It is He who created for you. It is He who created you from one soul and created from it its mate, that He might dwell in security with her. And when He covers her, she carries a light burden and continues therein. Meaning, when the man, obviously, man and woman have a relationship, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, she carries a light burden. Okay? And then it becomes heavy. In the start, in the beginning, it's light. And then by the end of the pregnancy, it becomes heavy. And when it becomes heavy, they both invoke Allah, their Lord. Meaning, when she's about to give birth, they're both asking Allah. They make dua to Allah. A couple make dua to Allah. And what do they say? If He should give us a good child, we will surely be amongst the grateful. Meaning, when people are struggling to have children, when they have children, who they're asking for children? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives them a righteous children, but when He gives them a good child, they ascribe partners to Him concerning that which He has given them. Meaning they start saying different things. Oh, my birth was easy because of that doctor, or my birth was easy because I ate this, or I did this, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed me with this child because I went to that priest, or I went to that scholar and I said this thing, and I saw this picture in my pregnancy, or I used to do this ritual. So they thus start associating different things for the success of the delivery. What do we learn from this? That all of this should be associated with only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Shifa is in the hands of Allah, not in the hands of certain people. But when He gives them a good child, they ascribe partners to Him concerning that which He has given them. Exalted is Allah above what they associate with Him. Do they associate with Him those who create nothing and they are themselves created? And the false deities are unable to give them help, nor can they help themselves. And if you believers invite them to guidance, they will not follow you, if it is all the same for you whether you invite them or you are silent. Indeed, those you polytheists call upon besides Allah are servants like you. So call upon them and let them respond to you if you should be truthful. Do they have feet by which they walk? Meaning, do these idols that you're associating power to have feet by they walk? Or do they have hands by which they strike? Or do they have eyes by which they see? Or do they have ears by which they hear? Say, O Muhammad, call your partners. قُلْ أُدْعُوا شُرَكَاءَكُمْ. Call all your partners. ثُمَّ كِيدُونِ فَلَا تُنظِرُونَ. And then conspire against me and give me no respite. Meaning, call upon your partners and try to plot against me. And don't give me any kind of like excuse or any kind of break. Do the worst that you can do. But you won't be able to because your gods are not going to help you because they are all fake. Indeed, and say, O Muhammad, say, indeed, my protector is Allah. Inna wali Allah. Alladhi nazal al-kitab. The one who sent down the book. Wa huwa yatawalla as-salihin. And He is an ally to the righteous people, to the salih people. Who is Allah an ally to? To the salih people, not to every person. And those who call upon besides Him are unable to help you, nor can they help themselves. And if you invite them to guidance, they do not hear, and you see them looking at you while they do not see. خُذِ الْعَفْوَ. Take what is given freely and enjoin what is good and turn away from the ignorant. So here the advice is given to the people who give da'wah and to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that they're not going to listen to you, but give them what is good and tell them what is good and then turn away from them, meaning ignore them about what they do. Do your job and do it in the most best way and then ignore. And this is the advice we should take. This is the best advice that we should take for ourselves in our relationships with the family and friends as well. When we give them an advice and then they react to it, ignore their reaction. It is hard to do, but that is what we're supposed to do. Don't take their reactions personally upon yourselves and start feeling sad, right? It is a reaction they're giving to the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not to you. And if an evil suggestion comes to you from shaitan, then seek refuge in Allah. Indeed, He is hearing and all-knowing. Indeed, those who fear Allah, when an impulse touches them from shaitan, they remember Him and at once they have insight. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying the good people are those that when shaitan touches them, meaning shaitan overcomes them for a while, and they indulge in a sin, right away they do the zikr of Allah. Or if a thought from shaitan comes to you, bad thoughts will come to your mind. Even Sahaba complained to Rasulullah that sometimes certain thoughts to come to our mind that if we were to say it, we would think that we're doing kufr. So Rasulullah advised them what? That seek refuge from shaitan. It is shaitan touching you, right? So this is what we need to do. Sometimes when we're thinking, when we're sitting, really weird thoughts come to our mind. Sometimes thoughts of kufr can come to your mind. That is the touch of shaitan. Shaitan has touched you at that time. So what should you do? What is the advice by Allah? تَذَكَّرُوا فَإِذَا هُمْ مُبْصِرُونَ. Then remember, we should remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at that time. But their brothers, the devils, increase them in error, then they do not stop short. And when somebody gets touched by shaitan and they don't do zikr of Allah to evade it, then shaitan gets its forces and he attacks that person with multitudes of forces, and then the person succumbs to the whims of shaitan. And when you, Muhammad, do not bring them a sign, they say, why have you not contrived it? Why have you not brought it? Say, I only follow what is revealed to me from my Lord. The Quran is enlightenment from your Lord, and guidance and mercy for the people who believe. هَذَا بَصَائِرُ مِن رَبِّكُمْ وَهُدًى وَرَحْمَةٌ لِقَوْمٍ يُؤْمِنُونَ. The true guidance from the Quran. One of the ways you can stop the touch of the shaitan, because shaitan is going to touch you one way or the other. That's something we cannot stop. We can stop the progression of that touch to let it enter the heart and to consume it. So fill your heart with the recitation of the Quran. Fill your heart to the listening of the Quran. If you cannot recite the Quran, play the recitation of the Quran and listen to it attentively. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands in this ayah, وَإِذَا قُرِئَ الْقُرْآنِ. So when the Quran is being recited, what should you do? Talk? Just play it in the background, disrespect it, and keep doing whatever you want to do? فَاسْتَمِعُوا لَهُ. Then listen to it. وَأَنصِتُوا. And pay attention to it. Pay attention. لَعَلَّكُمْ تُرْحَمُونَ. So that you may have mercy. And I feel so sad when I see it in Masajid in today, during Tarawih prayers as well. Recitation starts and women just can't stop talking. Yani, how much talking do you need to do? Have respect for the recitation of the Quran. And in your homes, if you're playing Quran in the background, don't play it like a background music. No. When the Quran is being played, pay attention to it. Stop and listen to it. And if you must talk, stop the playing of the Quran, talk, then resume it. But do not disrespect the Quran like this. وَاذْكُرْ رَبَّكَ فِي نَفْسِكَ تَضَرُّعًا وَخِيفَةً. How else can you stop the takeover of shaitan over your hearts? The next advice, وَاذْكُرْ رَبَّكَ. And remember your Lord. فِي نَفْسِكَ. Within yourself, in your hearts. Remember your Lord in your hearts, in your tongue. تَضَرُّعًا وَخِيفَةً. In humility and fear. Do dhikr of Allah constantly within yourself, in your heart, while doing your chores, while cooking, while cleaning, while doing laundry, while ironing, while mopping, while sweeping, while typing, while driving. Do the dhikr of Allah. The dhikr of Allah is a shield from the touch of shaitan. It is as if the dhikr of Allah creates a shield around your heart. It's a guard. The moment we stop doing the dhikr, shaitan enters the heart. We start the dhikr, shaitan gets out. We stop the dhikr, shaitan enters and he starts plotting, starts calling his armies. The more the heart stays away from the dhikr of Allah, the more comfortable shaitan builds his house in our hearts and minds. You want to clean shaitan out of your heart and mind? You want to create barriers? Do not let go of the guards. Create the soldiers. Who are your soldiers? Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illa anta subhanaka inni kuntu min al-zalimin, La ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika la. These adhkar are the soldiers. Fortify the heart. Fortify your castle with these adhkar. وَاذْكُرْ رَبَّكَ فِي نَفْسِكَ تَضَرُّعًا وَخِيفَةً. And remember your Lord within yourself in humility and in fear without being apparent in speech. Meaning you don't have to outward say it, Subhanallah, Subhanallah, Subhanallah. Like, you know how people say it? You don't have to make it that obvious. In your heart, Subhanallah, Subhanallah, slight, gentle, khifa, hidden. And when should you do it? In the mornings and in the evenings. Do not let go of your morning and evening azkar. And if you guys don't have access to morning and evening azkar, inshallah ta'ala, I will share a couple of apps with you guys and make a habit of making your morning azkar and evening azkar. وَلَا تَكُن مِّنَ الْغَافِلِينَ. And do not be amongst those who are ghafil, who are in ghafla. Indeed, those who are near your Lord, and are not prevented by arrogance from his worship, and they exalt him to him and they prostrate in the lazina in the Rabbika. Indeed, those people who are near their Rabb, la yastakbiruna min an ibadati. They are not prevented from arrogance. They're not arrogant from ibadah. They are constantly looking to do ibadah. وَيُسَبِّحُونَ, and they do his tasbih. وَلَهُ يَسْجُدُونَ, and they do sajda to him all the time. This is the ayat of sajda. Let's do sajda first, and then we will resume, inshallah. That is the end of Surah Al-A'raf. It is a beautiful surah, Surah Al-A'raf. Inshallah, the next surah is Surah Al-Anfal in Juz number 9. Before we start Surah Al-Anfal, I just want to play these ayat because these ayat are just so beautiful, right? Let's start from here, inshallah. Bismillah.
وَإِمَّا يَنزَغَنَّكَ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ نَزْغٌ فَاسْتَعِذْ بِاللَّهِ إِنَّهُ سَمِيعٌ عَلِيمٌ. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ اتَّقَوْا إِذَا مَسَّهُمْ طَائِفٌ مِّنَ الشَّيْطَانِ تَذَكَّرُوا فَإِذَا هُم مُّبْصِرُونَ. وَإِخْوَانُهُمْ يَمُدُّونَهُمْ فِي الْغَيِّ ثُمَّ لَا يُقْصِرُونَ. وَإِذَا لَمْ تَأْتِهِم بِآيَةٍ قَالُوا لَوْلَا اجْتَبَيْتَهَا قُلْ إِنَّمَا أَتَّبِعُ مَا يُوحَىٰ إِلَيَّ مِن رَّبِّي هَٰذَا بَصَائِرُ مِن رَّبِّكُمْ وَهُدًى وَرَحْمَةٌ لِّقَوْمٍ يُؤْمِنُونَ. وَإِذَا قُرِئَ الْقُرْآنُ فَاسْتَمِعُوا لَهُ وَأَنصِتُوا لَعَلَّكُمْ تُرْحَمُونَ. وَاذْكُر رَّبَّكَ فِي نَفْسِكَ تَضَرُّعًا وَخِيفَةً وَدُونَ الْجَهْرِ مِنَ الْقَوْلِ بِالْغُدُوِّ وَالْآصَالِ وَلَا تَكُن مِّنَ الْغَافِلِينَ. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ عِندَ رَبِّكَ لَا يَسْتَكْبِرُونَ عَنْ عِبَادَتِهِ وَيُسَبِّحُونَهُ وَلَهُ يَسْجُدُونَ. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Surah Al-Anfal. Anfal means war booty. What else is Anfal? Anfal is any kind of wealth that is obtained either in a war, so it's called war booty in the broad terms, or the bounties of the war, and any kind of mal that Muslims will attain from the enemy without a fight, let's say. Thirdly, it also refers to any kind of the mal, any kind of wealth that the soldier or the enemy would have on top of themselves, and after their death, you remove it from them. Fourthly, it also refers to jizya, okay, the tax that is imposed on non-Muslims under Muslim rule. And it refers to any gifts that are given to the state, so that is all anfal. It's the broad category. But in today's term, we'll understand it as anfal is anything that it is collected during war, the war booty. The background of this surah is that when Muslims had the first battle, which was Battle of Badr, and they won that battle, and the surah will talk about Battle of Badr in detail. So I'm going to give you a brief view now so that we can quickly go over the translation. When the Battle of Badr happened and Muslims won, now what are we going to do with the mal? Rasulullah had appointed 3 groups in Battle of Badr. One group was acting like a spy who was keeping an eye out when Abu Sufyan and Abu Jahl and all those people are going to leave Mecca. And the moment they heard that they're leaving, these people, took the news and went to Rasulullah right away with that news. The second group was the one who actually fought. They were very actively fighting in the Battle of Badr. And there was also a third group of people that had surrounded themselves, that had made a circle around Rasulullah to protect him. So when they won, the 3 groups started an argument or fighting that who is more worthy of the war booty, who is going to get all of this mal. Each group claimed it. The first group said that if we had not spied on Abu Sufyan and Abu Jahl, you guys would not know when to fight and when to assemble. It is because we went ahead first, you guys got to know, and you were assembled into the roads. The people who fought, they said, well, who actually fought? We fought. We fought, so you guys won, right? And the third group said, well, their main purpose was to kill Rasulullah. Who saved Rasulullah? We are the ones around him, so we are more worthy of the war booty. So Rasulullah, and then these 3 groups are coming to Rasulullah asking what to do with this. Rasulullah stayed quiet because he did not know, because no wahi had come at that point. He stayed quiet until Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed these ayats on him, that war booty does not belong to any of the soldiers. It is for Allah and His Rasul only. They will decide who to give it to. You don't just deserve it just because you were part of the war. No, the war booty, all of it, will count as a sadaqah, or will count as something that will go under Rasulullah's care, and Rasulullah will choose to decide how it will be distributed. Okay, and you cannot say anything about it. All right. يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْأَنْفَالِ. They ask you, Muhammad, about the bounties of war. Say, the decision concerning bounties is for Allah and the Messenger. So fear Allah. And amend that which is between you, meaning fix your relationships. وَأَصْلِحُوا ذَاتَ بَيْنِكُمْ. Do not fight amongst yourselves. You're fighting over wealth? Do not fight amongst yourselves. Fix your relationships with each other. Become brothers again. وَأَطِيعُوا اللَّهَ وَرَسُولُهُ. And obey Allah and His messengers and His messenger, in kuntum mu'minin, if you should be believers. إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الَّذِينَ إِذَا ذُكِرَ اللَّهُ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, it's such a beautiful ayah. Ayah number 2, highlight this ayah. The believers are those that when the dhikr of Allah is mentioned, when an ayah of Allah is mentioned, when the Quran is revealed to them, and when they learn a new ayah in the Quran, وَجِلَتْ قُلُوبُهُمْ. Their hearts become fearful. Their hearts develop this terror and turmoil and fear out of love. It's a state. It's a beautiful state of the heart. وَجِلَتْ قُلُوبُهُمْ. Their hearts become fearful. And when وَإِذَا تُلِيَتْ عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتُهُ, and when the ayat are recited upon them, زَادَتْهُمْ إِيمَانًا. Each ayah increases their iman. And upon their Lord they rely. وَعَلَى رَبِّهِمْ يَتَوَكَّلُونَ. And these people only do tawakkul on Allah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us amongst these. That when we listen to the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it increases our iman. May these verses become the source of increase in our iman. And who are these people? الَّذِينَ يُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةِ. They are the ones who establish prayer. وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ. And from whatever we have provided them, whatever talent we have given them, whatever skill we have given them, whatever time we have given them, whatever wealth we have given them, whatever children we have given them, whatever it is that we have given them, they spend in the way of Allah from it. أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ حَقًّا. They are the true believers. Lahum darajatun inda rabbihim. Between these believers, there are different levels, different degrees. Inda rabbihim, near their Rabb. Wa maghfirah, and forgiveness is for them. Wa rizqun kareem, and a noble provision. A kareem rizq is written for these people. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us among these. Allahumma ameen. Allahumma ameen. It is just as when your Lord brought you out of your home for the battle of Badr in truth, while indeed a party among the believers were unwilling, arguing with you concerning the truth after it had become clear, as if they were being driven towards death while they were looking on. Meaning, when the news came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and when the spies came back, and they told them that 1,000 of an army is coming to fight, and they were only 300 in number. So obviously, some of them became scared, and some of them were really started doubting if we even should fight this battle. Remember, O believers, when Allah promised you one of the two groups that it would be yours, and you wished the unarmed one that would be yours, but Allah intended to establish the truth by His words and to eliminate the disbelievers, that He should establish the truth and abolish falsehood, even if the criminals disliked it. Remember when you asked help of your Lord and He answered you, indeed, فَاسْتَجَابَ لَكُمْ. So Rasulullah, when the news came to him and he saw that Sahaba were losing heart, he went into his tent and he cried so much. He stood in worship and he started making dua to Allah so much that the sheet on his shoulder fell on the ground. And Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu came into his tent and he saw Rasulullah crying profusely, making dua to Allah for help, that he picked up his shawl that fell on the ground, put it on his shoulder, and hugged him from behind so tightly. And he said, Ya Rasulullah, you have exhausted yourself in asking Allah's help. Allah will indeed help you. He will indeed help us. Such a beautiful brotherly moment that they shared. إِسْتَسْتَغِيثُونَ رَبَّكُمْ. Remember when you asked help of your Lord, and He answered you, فَاسْتَجَابَ لَكُمْ أَنِّي مُمِدُّكُمْ بِأَلْفٍ مِّنَ الْمَلَائِكَةِ مُرْدِفِينَ. I will reinforce you with 1,000 from the angels, meaning 1,000 angels will come following one and another. And from a hadith, we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the angels from the third sky. And they came, and Sahaba became witness to it, that before they could hit the enemy of Islam, they would see the signs of leashes or lashes on the disbelievers and running out of fear from the battlefield. And they would look up to the sky. And then they came and told Rasulullah, Ya Rasulullah, this happened. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would smile. Those were the angels hitting before you could hit. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant the help of angels to our brothers in Palestine. وَمَا جَعَلَهُ لَهُ إِلَّا بُشْرًا. And Allah made it not but good tidings, and so that your heart would be assured thereby. And victory is not but from Allah. وَمَا النَّصْرُ إِلَّا مِنْ عِنْدِ اللَّهِ. Victory only comes from Allah. Indeed, Allah is most exalted and most wise. Remember when He overwhelmed you with drowsiness, giving security from Him, and sent down upon you from the sky rain by which to purify you and remove from you the evil suggestions of shaitan, and to make steadfast your hearts and plant firmly thereby your feet. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed Sakina at the time of Badr. He changed the weather and atmosphere and brought Sakina on the hearts of the believers, so they stayed firm. Remember what your Lord inspired to the angels, I am with you. So strengthen those who have believed. I will cast terror into the heart of those who disbelieved. So strike them upon the necks and strike from them every fingertip. So before they went into the battlefield, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought this news that the angels will help. And Rasulullah told this news to the believers to strengthen their iman. So they charged into the battlefield, thinking that they're going to be winners. And then they also charged into the battlefield because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made them appear bigger in number to the disbelievers. And the disbelievers did not look like 1,000 to them from far away. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala strengthened them this way. ذَلِكَ بِأَنَّهُمْ شَاقُوا اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ. That is because they opposed Allah and His Messenger. And whoever opposes Allah and His Messenger, indeed Allah is severe in penalty. That is yours, so taste it, meaning taste the punishment of Allah. And indeed for the disbelievers is the punishment of the fire. Ya ayyuhallazina amanu, or you have believed, when you meet those who disbelieve advancing for battle, do not turn to them your backs in flight. Meaning, do not turn away from the battlefield. When the battle has started, do not turn away, do not retreat. A believer does not retreat. A believer charges and fights till the end. And whoever turns his back to them on such a day, unless swerving as a strategy for war, meaning if it's not a strategy of war for you to retreat and attack them from a different angle, if you retreat just because you want to live, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, and whoever turns his back to them on such a day, unless swerving as a strategy for war or joining another company, has certainly returned with anger upon him from Allah, and his refuge is hell. وَمَأْوَاهُمْ جَهَنَّمْ وَبِئْسَ الْمَصِيرُ, and wretched is the destination. And you did not kill them, but it was Allah who killed them. So Allah is saying, you were not the one killing the disbelievers in the Battle of Badr. It was Allah who was killing them. And you threw not, O Muhammad, when you threw, but it was Allah who threw, that he might test the believers with a good test. And yet Allah is hearing and knowing. This is referring to that when the two armies were standing face to face to each other, Rasulullah grabbed a handful of pebbles and sand in his hand, and he threw it in the direction of disbelievers. So Allah is saying, you're not the one who threw it, but we threw it to them. So it was little bit of sand, but all the eyes of the disbelievers became like diluted. Like the sand got into the eyes from far away, into the eyes of the disbelievers, and they became confused and they started rubbing their eyes. And at that very moment, Muslims attacked. Muslims charged. ذَلِكُمْ وَأَنَّ اللَّهَ مُوهِنُ كَيْدِ الْكَافِرِينَ. That is so, and also that Allah will weaken the plot of the disbelievers. If the disbelievers seek the victory, the defeat has come to you. And if you desist from hostilities, it is best for you. But if you return to war, we will return. Meaning, if you will fight again, we will fight again. And never will you be availed by your large company at all, even if it should increase. And that is because Allah is with the believers. Sometimes we also get overwhelmed by looking at how the armies of the enemies of Islam are so strong and so big. And they have so many allies. And sometimes as a believer, the thought comes to our mind that how can we fight them? How can this happen? Allah is saying, if your iman is strong, you will become victorious. The reason we're not victorious, and despite having so much wealth in Muslim nations, the Arab world is full of it. We have armies upon armies, yet none of us are siding with our brothers in Palestine because we are scared of death. All of us. And all of our governments are scared of it, which is why nobody is becoming an ally to them. The help of Allah comes even when you are little in number, but you have yaqeen, you have iman, the help comes. Right now, we have the resources, yet we do not have the yaqeen in the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu atiyu Allah wa rasulah. O you who have believed, obey Allah and His messengers, and do not turn from Him while you hear. And do not be like those who say we have heard while they do not hear. Indeed, the worst of living creatures in the sight of Allah are the deaf and dumb who do not use reason. Had Allah known any good in them, He would have made them hear. And if He had made them hear, they would still have turned away while they were refusing. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu istajibu lillahi wal rasul. O you who have believed, respond to Allah and to the Messenger when He calls you to that which gives you life. Meaning, whatever Allah and His Rasul tell you to do, respond to it, because there is life in it. There is hayat in it. It looks like death to you. It looks like fighting is death, but there is actually life in that death. وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ يَحُولُ بَيْنَ الْمَرْءِ وَقَلْبِهِ وَأَنَّهُ إِلَيْهِ تُحْشَرُونَ. And know that Allah intervenes between a man and his heart, and that to Him you will be gathered. And fear a trial which will not strike those who have wronged among you exclusively, and know that Allah is severe in penalty. And remember when you were few and oppressed in the land, fearing that people might abduct you, but He sheltered you, supported you with His victory, and provided you with good things that you might be grateful. Ya ayyuhallazina amanu la takhunu Allah wa rasul wa takhunu amanatikum wa antum ta'lamun. O you who have believed, do not betray Allah and the Messenger, or betray your trust while you know the consequences. And know that your properties and your children are but a trial, and that Allah has with Him a great reward. The love of your children and wealth should not stop you from following the commands of Allah and His Rasul. Ya ayyuhallazina amanu, O those who have believed, if you fear Allah, He will grant you a criterion, a furqan, and He will remove from you your misdeeds and forgive you. And Allah is the possessor of the great bounty. And remember, O Muhammad, when those who disbelieved plotted against you to restrain you or kill you or evict you from Mecca, but they plan and Allah plans. وَيَمْكُرُونَ وَيَمْكُرُ اللَّهُ. And Allah is the best of planners. وَاللَّهُ خَيْرُ الْمَاكِرِينَ. And when our verses are recited to them, they say, we have heard. If we willed, we could say something like this. That is not but legends of the former people, meaning, oh, same old stories of the Quran. Na'udhu billah. Our forefathers, we have heard these stories before. We're not interested. It's the same old stuff over and over again. And remember when they said, oh Allah, if this should be the truth from you, then rain down upon us stones from the sky or bring us a painful punishment. This is referring to the saying of Abu Jahl, because Abu Jahl said to Rasulullah ﷺ that if you're truthful, if this Quran is true, then bring down a rain of stone. Let a rain of stones come upon me. But Allah would not punish them while you, Muhammad, are amongst them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, I will not send down a rain of stones or any kind of punishment because my Nabi, my Rasul, my beloved is on the earth with them. I'm not going to do that in his presence. And Allah would not punish them while they seek forgiveness. But why should Allah not punish them while they obstruct people from Masjid al-Haram and they were not fit to be its guardians? Its true guardians are not but the righteous, but most of them do not know. And their prayer at the house was not except whistling and hand clapping, meaning they had overtaken the Kaaba, the Mushrikeen of Makkah. And how did they worship the Kaaba? In the Kaaba? By whistling, clapping, dancing, doing this naked tawaf, naked circling. So taste the punishment for what you disbelieved. And I was thinking, subhanAllah, isn't that what some of the Muslims have done with certain ibadah in today's time? We have turned our ibadah into rituals, into distribution of sweets only. We are restricted to that, and clapping and doing these gatherings in which all we do is chanting and chanting and chanting with no concrete substance or evidence of those rituals. So we really need to think about the kind of rituals we have established as a Muslim community in different society, the kind of bid'ah that we have innovated in our Islam. It is a reference to this in this ayah number 35, that their prayer at the house was not except whistling and hand clapping. So taste the punishment of what you disbelieved. Indeed, those who disbelieve spend their wealth to avert people from the way of Allah. And then it will be for them a source of regret, then they will be overcome. And those who have disbelieved unto hell, they will be gathered. That is so that Allah may distinguish the wicked from the good and place the wicked, some of them, upon others and heap them all together and put them all together into hell. It is those who are the losers. Say to those who have disbelieved that if they cease, what has previously occurred will be forgiven for them. Meaning, even if you stop now, whatever you did before, Allah will forgive. But if they return to hostility, then the precedent of the former rebellious peoples has already taken place. وَقَاتِلُهُمْ حَتَّى لَا تَكُونَ فِتْنَةً. And fight them until there is no fitna, and until the religion, all of that, it is for Allah alone. And if they cease, then indeed Allah is seeing of what they do. وَإِن تَوَلَّوْا. But if they turn away, then know that Allah is your protector. فَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ مَوْلَاكُمْ. If they don't stop and they continue to fight you, O Muslimin, know that Allah is your protector. نِعْمَ الْمَوْلَى وَنِعْمَ النَّصِيرُ. How excellent is this protector. How excellent of a helper is he. And that is the end of Juz number 9. أَنَّ اللَّهَ مَوْلَاكُمْ نِعْمَ الْمَوْلَى وَنِعْمَ النَّصِيرُ. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.